Hi, everyone. My name is Gher from the Department of Psychology and from the Campus Wellness Committee. And it is my distinct privilege to be introducing our alum, Jenna Weinstein. Jenna was an all-star psychology student and rugby player back in the day when she was a student at New Paltz. She went on to get a master's degree related to sports psychology. She has worked for the United States military and inspiring people using principles of positive psychology and sports psychology. And she is here today to talk about how we can best deal with crisis psychology. Jenna, it's so great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Gher. And I'm always going to call you Dr. Gher. I can't not do that. I cannot do that. Thank you so much for having me today. And when you and Christina Cordier invited me to speak on a topic that could help students and faculty deal with the crisis that we're in and how do we overcome challenges during this pandemic, my mind automatically started thinking about how it's not uncommon when we're faced with a challenge or a setback that it's really easy for us to get knocked off our feet. And then not every time is it very easy for us to get back up. Usually when we get knocked down, some of us respond by dwelling and staying down and focusing on what went wrong and how more things are going to continue going wrong and how we might not have control over those situations. And then we go from being knocked down to staying down. And then it can get worse and worse as the days progress. And then before we know it, we're in what some might call a rut or a funk. And that might last for a couple of days. And then those couple of days extend to a week. And then it's now 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month that you're just not feeling like yourself. Maybe you're still doing things day in and day out, but you're still feeling a little lost or confused, unsure what you should do. You're feeling like you don't know when this crisis that we're in is going to end, what you can do to make the situation better. Your normal everyday routine has been completely thrown off. And for a lot of us, we function based on a routine. So when our everyday routine is taken away from us, a lot of us just don't know what to do and we tend to shut down. And this shutdown and funk that we can get into, I started calling this a crisis cyclone, where one bad thing happens and maybe it doesn't completely ruin your day, but it doesn't take long for the momentum to pick up. And now everything feels like it's going wrong. And we don't feel like we're having control in our everyday lives. And rather than try and grab control, we tend to just give in to the cyclone and just let it take us away. And then hopefully what we're hoping for is the cyclone will end and everything will go back to normal. But we're probably not back where we used to be anymore. We're still in that mental funk and we can't get ourselves out of it still. So that's what I really think is important for us, is to recognize if we're falling into a funk, if we're getting sucked into the crisis cyclone, and how can we get unstuck? How can we unfunk ourselves? So that's what, I mean, I'd love to know if Dr. Gher and Sarah, if either of you have seen this in yourselves or other people close to you, if you've seen people just getting caught in a rut or down in a funk ever.
Oh, definitely. It's a great topic, and definitely see it a whole lot on the campus and at the counseling center where I work at the PCC. Many students come in. I would say the new diagnostic term should be crisis cyclone.
TM.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to get into those places, especially in college, where there's so many demands and expectations we put on ourselves too, and let alone what we're all going through now. So I think, yeah, we definitely see it. I'd love to talk. Let's hear more and have more of a discussion. This is great.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I really like about this idea from a behavioral science perspective has to do with control, or perceptions of control. And there's so many theories in psychology for years that have, from different angles, that have come at this idea of the importance of control, and the importance of perceiving control. And I feel like right now, people across the entire world have an extraordinary lack of control. And I feel like that's something that people really need to deal with. So Jenna, how do you think people can really regain that control?
Yeah, I think the word control, I think we need to redefine what control means, because I know, like, if I think about control, my mind automatically goes to like a video game. And you think of, am I working the controller? Do I have complete and utter control over this character, where they move, how they move, when they jump, what they do? Do I know all the secret codes to get that really cool spin move that'll take me to the next level? And in life, you're not always going to have a controller. And I think sometimes you're not going to have control over things, but I think you can have influence over something.
Yeah,
And
I like the concept of you can adjust your sails, but not control the wind, or is one concept or one way of thinking about it. Or I also joke a lot about the illusion of control. You know, we kid ourselves into thinking we have a lot more control over life in general than we actually do. It's more working with what happens more than, you know, defining and controlling what happens.
Right. And I think so often when a situation feels out of our control, we try so hard to control the situation. And in the process, we start losing control over ourselves, because now we're getting frustrated that the situation isn't changing. Now we're getting frustrated that we're not getting the results that we want. Now we're getting annoyed and we're starting to lose patience that we're putting out all this effort and energy and it's going nowhere. So that's when people start giving up. That's when people start losing hope. And that's when they start really just not trying anymore. So how about, rather than trying to control the situation, you focus on yourself? So like you said, Dr. Gher, there's perceived control. And I think it also talks about like loci of control. Are you trying to have an external control where you're trying to control the things around you, or are you having more of an internal loci of control? You can control yourself and what you think, what you do, how you respond to things, rather than waiting for things to happen for you. What if you just responded with a little bit more control and resilience in these difficult moments?
Yeah, I think one thing that Sarah had said that it just reminded me of a study that speaks to all this, was the phrase illusion of control.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
it's kind of interesting in that whether you actually have control or not in life seems to almost pale in comparison to whether you see yourself as being in control, or you're empowered and you feel empowered and you're empowered by others. There's this famous study that was actually done in a nursing home years ago in the 70s when they first started studying this topic. And they gave a whole bunch of people a plant, and
Yeah,
half of
I know
them
this
were
study.
told, right? Half of them were
Yeah.
told, we're gonna water that for you. And the other half were told, you better take care of that plant. And the people who took care of their own plant actually lived longer and were happier and healthier because they actually controlled their environment.
Mm,
So I think it's a really interesting application.
yeah. Ooh, that's actually really an interesting study. I don't know if I recall that study from my years at New Paltz, but I spent some time reading about a man named James Stockdale. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with James Stockdale. He was a former vice president, and he was also a vice admiral in the Navy and he was a pilot for the Navy during the Vietnam War era. And his plane was shot down, and he was taken as a prisoner of war at the Hanoi Hilton in Vietnam. And the Hanoi Hilton is famous for having kept people as prisoners for 3, 5, 7+ years until they were released back to their home countries. And James Stockdale was held prisoner for about 7 years at the Hanoi Hilton. And when he was interviewed after his release, people noticed that he was experiencing really great success in life. And they were asking, how did you even survive 7 years, like through being like tortured, like isolated, and just brutal living conditions, and now you're going on to experience all this success in life? And he said, well, when it comes to surviving in really difficult situations, you can't hope that the situation's going to remedy itself. That's just wasted energy. All you can do is know that eventually it's going to be over, and all you can do is focus on what you can control within that day, which is, for him, it was surviving and just making it to the end of the day. And I think that parallels really well to that plant study, where if you feel like you have control over something and you exercise that control, even if it's over something really simple or seems simple, you're probably going to be so much more successful than people who just, well, there's nothing I can do about it, might as well just give up. Because you might have that attitude over really big things in life too. If you do that for the little things, you're going to do that for the big things too.
I
Yeah,
agree.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. One thing I would like to also drive home to our students is you could even think of yourself as your own plant, right? Water your own plant right now. Our self-care is so important. We have so many resources up through our Stress Busters initiative and our hashtag Skills to Chill, little tiny things that you can do for yourself to water your own plant, right? Set a schedule for yourself, get some movement in, connect with your loved ones, figure out what it is that you need to flourish as a person, and then maybe that'll get you in a place where you can give to others and thrive during this time as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. I so love that. I want to put that on a t-shirt. Be your own plant. Oh my God. I'm trying to think of what kind of plant I'd be right now.
Yeah, with a little, blue and orange pot, and
yes.
and pee on it. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. I can just see it now. New Paltz is going to, like, in the fall, students are going to be like planting flowers all over campus. And everybody's going to have their own plant. It's going to be like, who's ever plant's thriving the best is like winning. I love that. I love that. Oh man. But I think that's so true. Like, so often the biggest thing that we have the most control over is ourselves. And we often take care of ourselves last, especially when a crisis hits. Like, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, we're so concerned with making sure our loved ones are okay, or that like our jobs are set up for success to be like to work at home, or that we're getting all of our schoolwork done on time. And then we're not. How often do we ever ask ourselves throughout the day, how am I doing? Because now you're probably not interacting with people enough for them to ask you how you're doing. So who's checking in on you? And if you're not doing it, other people probably aren't doing it either.
One strategy too that I set up during this time with my real life best friend is a daily sanity check. We text each other. Somebody does, doesn't matter who does what first, but it's a daily sanity check. How are you? How are things in your world? And that close connection, I think, has us, she's across the country, has us talking way more than we normally would. And I appreciate that intimacy during this time. So that might be a tip that students could use. Find a sanity partner, find an accountability partner, somebody you say you're going to check in with every day.
Yeah. And maybe not someone who you're, I don't want to say stuck in the house with, but not someone who you're, in the house with all the time. Like, so you get a change in perspective and like somebody to look forward to talking to. That's different. I love that. I think that's great.
I think that's an awesome idea. I mean, one of the strangest things about the current situation is how we're sort of being forced to separate from other people, and that somehow is like correct or appropriate. And I understand why it is, but it's also very unnatural, and it's really not great for our wellness in so many ways. So I think what you're talking about, Christina, and strategies like that are like exactly what we have to do. We have to, given the situation, form connections, maintain connections, and make sure that we are still part of important, substantial social circles, because we need that.
Yeah. Another thing that's really helped me is no matter what, when the workday's over at 5 now, actually at 4, is I get out in nature. I go for a walk with my partner, and now we even will meet up with others at a safe distance, and just drink in the beauty around here. And that's been super sustaining. I like the idea of the plant, though. I'm going to really stick with that. And I like, we should call it instead of an accountability buddy, it'd be a water your plant buddy or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's in the garden with you or something like that.
That's excellent.
Keep that analogy going. Yeah.
Right.
I've actually,
We're planting those seeds of who those people will be as we continue to move through this pandemic.
Yeah. Right.
We're planting new seeds.
Yeah. But I think finding opportunities within the pandemic or within this crisis is always something that people should look for. So yes, maybe your everyday routine is altered, and maybe this gives you an opportunity to develop new hobbies or to put more energy towards things that you've wanted to do. And now you have more time, hopefully, to do them. So my husband and I have been talking since we moved into our house almost 3 years ago, that we should really start like a garden. We should start planting things.
Right.
And we finally did it about a month ago. And would you know, our plants are growing because we've been watering our plants and giving them sunlight. But it's something that we've wanted to do and found a lot of excuses that it's just not the right time. We're not gonna be able to take care of them, or we always put it on the back burner. And now what we've realized is we put a lot of the things that we've wanted to do on the back burner because of other things like commuting to work and going to meetings and traveling for work and going to other events. And now a lot of those things have been removed. So now we get to put ourselves and our needs on the front burner again. And isn't that what it should always be about anyway? Like, we should always be on the front burner.
True.
Right. Well, I agree. And Jenna, we are running a little bit short on time. Thank you all for your participation today. Much, much appreciated, and your expertise. Thank you for sharing. Jenna, if you could leave us with 3 important things that we could do, right?
Yeah.
To break up this crisis cyclone for our students and our faculty and our staff, what would they be?
I think before you can make any change, you have to be aware that a change is needed. So just evaluate how you've been feeling, and if you feel like you might have been falling into a funk or getting sucked into the crisis cyclone. And if you have, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. So just recognize, be aware if you are falling into a funk, sucked into the crisis cyclone. And then I like to say it's okay to have a bad day, but you can't have 2 bad days in a row. So if today was a bad day, tomorrow doesn't have to be a great day, but it has to be better than it was today. So just make tomorrow 1% better than today, and you're on your way. And then I do love the idea of having an accountability person or a sanity buddy or a garden mate or a fellow plant or a pea in the pod with you. I'll just keep that plant analogy going. Like someone who you can check in with, or more than one person that you could check in with and talk to about different things, like different interests that you have, just to hear a different voice, hear a different perspective, and give you something to look forward to throughout your day. I think that would be phenomenal. So yeah, recognize how you're feeling, make every day a little bit better than the one before, and then stay connected with different people. It would be fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. And we look forward to continuing this conversation.
Yes.